Hey, Mike Coltharp here. Can I talk a little bit about annuities and 401ks? I just had a really good talk with a friend of mine about the difference between the two, and really, when it comes to retirement, there's a couple things you want to think about. How long is your money going to last? When people come into my office, well, when I ask them their number one retirement concern, almost 98% of them say they don't want to run out of money. But yet, a lot of them have 401ks and financial advisors. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a 401k or having a financial advisor, but when it comes to running out of money, everyone seems to be running out of money. But when I ask, or are concerned about running out of money, but when I ask them what they're doing to prevent that from happening, they don't have an answer, right? So when you're ready to retire, there's a lot of things to think about. But what I want to focus on is with the 401k, you've been really good at dumping money into it and saving the money. And really what a 401k is, it's an expensive savings account that allows you to lose money. Now, does the market go up? Yeah, it does. But have you actually taken a look at your account in the last 20 years and calculated the amount of losses and compared them to the wins? And then added the fees that are associated with those losses and those wins. Have you actually done that, right? Most people haven't, because that's not something they're taught to do. And what you'll find is that you've lost more money in a 401k than you have. Now, I just recently looked at one the other day, and the client had, I forget what it was. It was only for a couple years, and there was about $11,000 in the 401k. Okay, and then I looked back and I looked at the amount of contributions. Now, the employer contributions and the employees' contributions combined, and that was 80%. Actually, I think it was more than that. 9, 10, 11. Yeah, 9,000 out of 11 was the contributions. So if you were just to do simple math, you contributed $9,000 in the last 3 years between you and your employer, and there's only $11,000 in the account. That's only a $2,000 growth overall in 3 years. So the question is, are you really making money in a 401k? And are you fulfilling the definition that I have of an investment? Because a 401k is not an investment. A 401k is a savings account. And it is connected to the market. Now, I'm not saying the market's bad. That's going to be something you have to decide for yourself, because it's your money. But I don't know about you, but I don't want to lose any money. And I don't want the market to go down to affect my ability to retire when I'm ready to retire. Now, I'm not going to retire anytime soon, because I have a job, a business that I don't have to retire soon. I've already done my first career, and so I'm not worried about retiring. But you might be. And so it's up to you to determine whether your 401k is actually good for you. Okay, yeah, you're getting a tax deduction now, but if you look at the history of taxes, you'll see that we're in the lowest tax bracket in 30 years, almost 40, right? I think it's like 1986, I think, is where the tax bracket is equal to where we're at now, okay? And it looks like we're going to probably stay here for a while. So taxes long term are probably not as big a deal as they were before. But if you look up the history of 401k, Ted Benna is the founder of the 401k in 1975, 1978, somewhere around there. And when he basically discovered and developed the 401k because he realized that there should be a way for people to save their money and keep it without being taxed, because at that time the taxes were 78%. And so at that point, yes, you're 78% taxable. So yes, you're going to want to save taxes on that. Right now, I mean, the average person is 35%. It's real important to understand these things because you have to decide for yourself if that's something that is worth doing, because you're dumping all this money. I have one client I just met with, and they're taking their old 401k and they're rolling over into an annuity. Because in 2008, they actually lost almost all their money in their 401k. Okay. Remember, the stock market closed for a time during COVID. It shut down. Okay. Do you really want those types of things to control your future? That's really what I want you to think about. Who should be in charge of your future? Oh, yeah, okay, well, we can make a lot of money in the market. Yeah, you can. But you can also lose a lot of money in the market, right? So if that's your main source of saving for your retirement, it might be kind of dangerous financially, right? But that's up to you to decide. It depends on you, right? And I want you to think about a question. In the next 5 years, or 5 years before you retire, how much money are you willing to lose? Now, everybody tells me, I don't want to lose anything. But yet, their main source of retirement savings is in a vehicle that's connected to a market that historically has gone down significantly 25 times in the last 80 years. Now, if you want to do an annuity, if you have a 401k transferring over to an annuity or rolling over, you still have to follow the same tax laws, right? But the big difference is once you roll it over into an annuity, then your money is no longer at risk to the market losses. It's now insured. Where else do you have your retirement funds insured? Right? You want to make sure that, yeah, okay, you're going to make 2 or 3 or 4% or 5%. Yeah, probably. Annuities, you're not going to make 1,000%. But the key is, what you have to analyze for yourself is, would you rather make 5% on your money in the next 20, 30 years with no losses? Or would you rather make 20, 10, 15, 30% with 20, 30, 40, 10, 50, 60, 70% losses? That's kind of up to you to decide. It's your money. Your financial advisor is not going to be saving you because he or she is going to be retired by the time you're retired, right? Unless they're new. But the original financial advisor you started with, by the time you retire, is probably going to be retired. They're not going to save you. They're not going to write you a check if they made a mistake or put your funds in a wrong area and you lost money. It's all about you. The birth of the 401k came with the responsibility turned to you to make sure you fund your retirement, make sure that you never run out of money, make sure that if something happens to you between the time you start working to the time you stop working, and from the time you stop working until the time you stop breathing, that your money is always going to be there. How are you making that happen? Now, Are annuities the only thing, the best thing in the world? I think they're the best thing in the world, but they're not the only thing. So if you want to learn a little bit more, have another discussion, ask me questions, or you want to look and see whether annuity is something that would be worth it for you, give me a call, send me a text, respond back to this message or email, and let's have a conversation.